Hello.
Hi.
What would you like to have a conversation about?
I'd like to have a conversation about Ex Machina. Hello, I am Professor Robert E.G. Black, and I am here with...
Sarah Black.
That's all you went with after that? How do you want to be introduced? I don't care. Simplest thing ever.
My name.
My co-host from Pump Up the Minute, and wife, and professor, and famous TikToker.
Ha.
You've already been on this show, so we've already talked about that you didn't see Ex Machina till last year. We're on minute 19, in which nothing happens.
Things do. It's just very subtle. It's very subtle. It's weird how well each of these minutes tie together.
Yeah.
They're almost the same. Like, the feeling's the same. The clocks are the same. I mean, they're different times.
Yeah, there's a little more emotion in Eternal Sunshine, but even that, we mostly saw it last minute. And so it's just kind of this quiet little interlude of being alone. Each one has a clock.
Yeah.
This week.
I'd say Eternal Sunshine's the most outwardly emotional. They're all emotional. I'd say Groundhog Day the least. It's just which emotion is being expressed.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of that, like, white male existentialist isolationist, like, having to thing going on with, like, all three of those. They're all, like, almost at the start of this awakening to their transformation.
Yeah. It's also the moment for Groundhog Day, literally, Eternal Sunshine, because they saved the opening credits to be so late. Also sort of literally. It's the point where that character is aware of the plot.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the time loop has started.
Yes.
Caleb's stuck in his room and realizes this is a weird place where they have security cameras going constantly and he can view them. And then Joel is devastated and sad and driving around late at night by himself.
Yeah, there's all this feeling of just being, like, trapped within one's existence, and it's like the start of how are they, now that they have awareness of being trapped, like, how are they going to respond to it? Which I guess, in terms of movie structure, having all of that happen around minute 19, it's just how
it's close to what I was
work.
saying
But,
in minute 2 weeks ago. 17.
But,
it's more of that. And also it occurs to me that means I think Caleb might be the healthiest in his dealing with it. Because Phil doesn't really admit to himself he's in a time loop until day 3. And Joel is going to erase things because he needs to deny it.
So, let's focus on Ex Machina.
Yeah, because that's just when we start with Caleb in the bathroom. Still, we talked about his scars last time on his back because he was in the car accident where his parents died, in case you don't remember from viewing the movie that one time a year
I don't.
ago.
I have a terrible memory. I can view a movie 10 times and I will get the meaning out of it and I will have thoughts and emotions from it, but I don't tend to, my brain doesn't work to where I will remember specific details about things or specific scenes of things, or when people are citing movie quotes, or just, I can't do it. Like, my brain just does not hold that information.
So from what little you remember of Ex Machina then, I wonder if what you would think of my observation last week about his scars is that they look like they're matching scars on his back that reminded me of Lucifer in the TV show or in the comic getting his wings removed. Like, they look like scars from wings being gone, which I thought might have been on purpose.
Are you saying this is like kind of the hero's journey underworld thing where he's like plunged into hell and now he has to deal?
Yeah, he's Orpheus.
Okay, sure.
He's Orpheus, and except he's not, in the end, he's not Orpheus. He would be Eurydice. She'd be Orpheus, but yeah, same idea. He went down below ground to get here. He made a deal with the devil. And then even talking about the painting by Titian several weeks ago, that's all about sin. And it's on the wall in Nathan's office. We don't get much of that shot of his scars, though, because that was last minute. We cut pretty quickly this minute to him in bed, and we're looking at him from behind. And it occurs to me this is not a good place to sleep. You may have noticed this also, because you have sleep issues sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a big bright blue light on the wall.
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
isn't good
It's
for
not good
sleeping.
to sleep with lights.
The other lights are not off. The lamps are off, but the embedded lights in the corners are still on. This room is still lit.
Although that place is so creepy, I don't know that I'd want to sleep there in the absolute dark either.
But you know how silent that room would be if you turned everything off? Actually,
I don't know.
It probably would have a low hum from all of the wires in the walls.
The last time I went to South Carolina and stayed at my parents' house, it was so quiet there. The first night, I stayed awake the entire night because sometimes just having absolute silence is so much more disconcerting than having...
Yeah, you gotta turn on a fan or something just to have a hum. Because, we live in LA. If our power's out, there's still noise.
Right.
Because
it's never silent.
You got
here.
cars on the freeway. Less than a mile from here. It's not brightly lit, but it's lit. And he's having trouble sleeping. This room doesn't have windows, so he could have absolute darkness if he wanted it. He doesn't need blackout curtains like we've got.
Blackout curtains do not work, by the way. Sorry, this has nothing to do with films. But
it's fine. I was like, these ones right here in the living room are working really well. We should have these upstairs. These
I don't know. But when I woke up this morning briefly and it was so light in our room, I was like, oh, I wonder what time it is. Looked at the clock, it's like 6:30. It was bright light, so those curtains are useless. But anyway.
You just gotta get longer ones.
Yeah.
So there's the beat, and then we get a reverse angle over Caleb's shoulder on our first alarm clock of the week. It is 2:26 a.m. In the script, it actually specifies 3 different times. They were going to have like several cuts to show he's having trouble sleeping, and I think this covers it with a single moment.
As much as I love numbers, I should have looked up what they all were. I meant to, and then I didn't get to it. So, quick search on 226.
It's a happy number. What the fuck is a happy number?
I have never heard of a happy number, but for those who are into numerology or into the idea of angel numbers, which you're definitely not. And I'm not really.
It's come up on the shows before, though.
But anyway, when angel number 226 appears, it's telling you to stop thinking of your weaknesses as holding you back, to instead consider your weaknesses as strengths to propel you forward in life.
That seems apt.
Yeah.
We just saw his scars, and we're going to go forward. This is the fact that he bothers to watch her on this footage right in this moment. He's starting to care.
Right. It's saying to view your weaknesses as vulnerabilities rather than negative traits, and to consider how to use them to change the lives of others around you. The point is you can use your pain and weakness for yours and others' benefits.
Right, which he does.
So do we think that was a purposeful choice or not? I always think when people put clocks in films, it's
226
purposeful. 226
is not one of the times that's in the script, so maybe. There could have been someone on the set who's like, what time it is? And someone like 226, it works. And knew this. Or it's just coincidence. And arguably, as someone who doesn't buy into numerology and all the other stuff, this might sound wrong. But arguably, if those numbers actually mean those things, they would happen regardless if someone intended it.
Interesting. 226 is also about spiritual development and growth. We started off this episode talking about transformation, like they're all going through. And it's saying that it's helping people through community and social projects, getting involved in changing the systemic policies of your neighborhood. So I don't know if you look at the house as a neighborhood.
Depending on how you define neighborhood and systemic, all the terms, it could fit. I spent a long time, I didn't look up the number, but I spent a long time looking up his t-shirt because I knew you were going to be the guest in this minute, and I thought it looked like it was an album cover.
Oh, okay. But it wasn't?
I'm pretty sure it is not, because I found an auction selling what I think is the actual shirt that Donald Gleason wore in this scene. It is just a graphic tee from The Gap.
Okay.
So it may have just been bought at random because they want him to appear as an American, even though they're filming in the UK and Norway, and he's Irish. It's just 3 images of a highway, a tree line with a mountain, and a parked car on a road. And 9 stars, which I couldn't think of any reason why they would pick this particular shirt other than just it looked generic and he could wear it. It doesn't look like anything specific. The problem is I thought it looked like something very specific, and it wasn't. It does have a stamp that says Los Angeles, California, though, so maybe we're supposed to think that's where he's from. I don't know. I was hoping it was some cool, 80s band that I didn't know the album cover, but no. So he rolls over toward the clock. After sighing, get a reverse, and he's facing the camera, and he says, "Damn it." And that's when he grabs the remote off the table next to him and rolls onto his back. He just kind of puts his head up at first as he turns the TV on the opposite wall. And I like the shot here because I think it's actually an unusual thing for Garland to do, or his DOP, but it's the same guy each time. Because we don't get a shot of him sitting there at first. The camera's focused on, it follows the remote to his hand. And so it's like this object instead of this person. And then it cuts to the TV. It comes back and we get him sitting there watching, but for a moment it kind of detaches from the person, which in this cold space is interesting. because it should be doing the opposite of what it's doing.
So, as a person who doesn't remember anything, why does the TV come on? Does he want him to see that? Is it an accident? Like, why is he getting
footage?
This information?
I think that's why his next... We only get 2 lines of dialogue in this minute. He said, damn it, because he's having trouble sleeping, and then he says, what the fuck?
Right.
And I think that's his question, too, is
Yeah.
why is he seeing security footage when he turns his TV on?
Yeah.
I could see why there's no TV necessarily. There's a TV in the room, but maybe Nathan doesn't want him to have television because he doesn't want him to be distracted by world events if anything interesting happens that week. Because he's only there for a week. He shouldn't have distractions. But I don't know why there's a TV then. He should be able to watch like movies. There should be pay-per-view. But he doesn't even get an option. It goes directly to security camera in Ava's room.
So,
and then when he switches the channel and clicks, it just goes to different security cameras of the same area.
So is it just the panopticon, like, use of power where you can see the power structure, but you can't do anything about the power structure as a flex?
Partly. Partly, yes. And also, I think there is a practical reason in that since he's the one who's supposed to be testing Ava, he might want to watch what she does when she's by herself. It might be a useful test to see what she's like. But we never got a conversation where Nathan told him that. So it doesn't really work. He also doesn't... I don't think they have a conversation about it later either. He doesn't talk to Nathan about the fact he can watch her at night. So, yeah, it's a little of both. It's also a reminder that there's probably cameras in his room. Nathan can see everything he's doing. And it's something that Caleb doesn't get that message, because later he's doing secret stuff, and he could easily get caught. He just happens to be slightly more clever than
film
Nathan thinks he is.
Released?
2014.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that coincides with when smartphones were increasingly inexistent. Like, that was the year that there was a huge increase in people having access to them.
Well, that's how...
And so lack of privacy, loss of privacy, constant monitoring, surveillance.
Yeah. Well, Nathan will actively describe that later. That's how he figured out how to program emotional responses and facial expressions, was he turned on all of the cameras on everyone's phone. Just spying on everybody. Constantly.
Then we are just seeing ourselves through Caleb, witnessing our own realization of our lack of privacy and constant monitoring.
And it also might then connect us with Ava, even though we barely met her, is that we might care that she's stuck in this space where she's constantly being watched. And she didn't have a choice. Caleb has a choice. He can leave. Well, I guess technically he can't leave for a week, but he can not participate.
It's interesting when we think about things like TikTok or other spaces that people use for activism, there's still spaces that are monitored and controlled. And then we can get even more conspiratorial about like controlled opposition and things like that, but I don't necessarily do right now. But
yeah, so we get just a series of shots of what he's seeing on the screen, him sitting there in bed, and he sits up once he realizes what he's watching and pays a little more attention. And what we get is one angle on Ava's room from, I don't know how to describe which corner it's from. We're looking down from the right. And she is sitting at the desk, and she's drawing. We won't see what she's drawing till later, and we'll see that she draws every night. But when he switches the channel, we get a different angle, which is, and I loved that they showed this, because I didn't realize it. The camera is out in the yard outside her window, with that tree in it. And there is no door. Which means she has a yard with a tree that she can see,
and
but
not
she
access.
Can't go there. I'm not even sure if that tree is real. I'm not sure if the tree area is open to the above, or if it's just a fake illusion for her.
That is super interesting.
Yeah. And then he clicks again and gets a third angle, now from the left side of her room, looking sort of behind her. And I believe that is when he says, what the fuck?
That makes me think about how so few people can access, again, because of, like, money and power, natural spaces. And we're, like, so far in the simulation that instead of having those spaces, again, through our smartphones, what's become popular? Like nature apps, meditative thing. Like, we don't experience those things naturally through, like, communing with it. We do it through as, like, commodified products that are sold to us.
Or
that we can't
or
really
we buy
access.
A bunch of commodified products to go do our nature hike.
Yes, that is another aspect. Right.
Or we have to buy the nice water bottle and
absolutely
the fancy trail mix, the nice clothes. You gotta be, especially in LA. If you're not wearing something nice when you're out hiking, people are gonna look at you weird. And as for content, that's pretty much this minute is. We get 3 angles of the room he's watching, and at the end of the minute, he gets up from his bed and starts walking toward the TV. He's definitely taking notice of the fact that he's allowed to watch this.
And the three angles could tie back to the religious or spiritual element with the Trinity. So,
which goes to the main cast, basically three people. The Titian painting was 3 people and 3 animals, with lots of biblical references in this. So, yeah, it makes sense. And so, yeah, the panopticon of the house is letting Caleb know it's there. He just is a little too distracted by Ava still, which is really the test. Especially if he's an android. Just throwing that out there because I have a habit of mentioning it every episode because I am a nuisance to my own show. What would you like to tell people about before you get out of here until tomorrow?
So if you're interested in hearing about music and politics in a longer podcast form, you can listen to Life as a Playlist. If you're interested in me discussing these things in 60 seconds or less, feel free to follow COMM_lion on TikTok.
Thank you for listening. Minutia Ex Machina is just one part of an existential trilogy of podcasts. Tune in every Tuesday for more Ex Machina, every Wednesday for the Groundhog Day Project Minute by Minute, and every Thursday for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Minute. You can follow all 3 shows in one feed. Just search An Existential Trilogy. Follow this show on Twitter at xminutia, Instagram at minutia_x_machina, or Facebook at minutia x machina. This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com, or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops. Until next time.
What imperative does a gray box have to interact with another gray box? Can consciousness exist without interaction? The real test is to show you that she's a robot and then see if you still feel she has consciousness.